But the one thing that just keeps coming back to me, and you demonstrated it with that last delivery, is that the past does not dictate the future. It's today that dictates the future. So what are we doing today to make tomorrow that much more in line with what our hopes are? And I think that transfers into business, it transfers into relationships, it transfers into your physical health and well-being, your mental health and well-being. The past does not have to dictate the future. And that's, for me, that is enough to get me out of bed in the morning.
Hello, dear listeners. It's that time again when we stroll through the paths of ambition, desire, and success. Welcome to the Dare to Declare podcast, where we explore the enchanting world of giant manifestors who've turned their visions and goals into the stuff of legends. I couldn't help but wonder, how do some people create the lives they've always dreamed of? Is it the magic of manifesting, the power of perseverance, or perhaps just a dash of serendipity? Well, dear friends, grab your coffee cups because we're about to spill the tea on fascinating journeys of those who dare to dream big and make it happen. Join me as we sip on success stories and ponder the ever-enticing question, can we all manifest our dreams into reality, or is it just an urban fairy tale? I'm your host, Debbi Sluice, and I'm here to guide you through the labyrinth of achievement with heart and soul. Ready to dare to declare? Let's get started. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. And my special guest today is Holly McIlwain, and she helps leaders navigate narrow spaces of work and life with the hope of increasing the number of people who are doing the best work of their lives. She focuses on people and culture because she believes that work should never just be work and that people matter. She works with leaders who have a passion for serving the whole person as a strategy for the recruitment and retention of great talent. She's the founder of a high-impact not-for-profit called the Brave Women's Project, which I'm really excited to dig into today, in addition to supporting the work of Winner Partners. At the end of the workday, she exists to create sustainable and harmonious solutions to the ever-vexing myth of work-life balance by providing talent solutions and leadership development with a perfect fit for organizations and businesses with over 20 years of expertise in training, program development, and procedure enhancement. She has a reputation as the go-to person. She's highly energetic, creative, known for consistent execution and delivery. She's a certified professional behavioral analyst with DISC, with a whole bunch of other letters, CPDFA, Gallup, certified strength coach trainer, and the author of She Who Leads, Practical Wisdom from a Woman Who Serves. Also for She Who Grieves, Practical Wisdom for Living Hope, and a continuing author in 21. Welcome, Holly.
Hi, Debbi. Thanks for having me. And sorry for all of the words in my bio. I mean, there's a lot there.
It's so good. A lot means that there's a lot of experience and a lot that we can dig into today. So I'm excited to introduce you to my network, to my audience. And, you know, one of the things, though, that really attracted me to you and got our pre-conversation really juicy is that you're expecting, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I am expecting. I'm like 8 or 9 weeks from delivery.
Oh, my goodness. And what really got me curious about you and about this pregnancy is your philosophy, your strategy around delivery. Now, is this your first?
No. So this is my third baby, my third delivery. And a very unexpected one because I am an older mom, like not just a little bit older mom where like the doctors nicely say, oh, you're 35, that's advanced maternal age. I'm like way up in the 40s. And that's when so often the self-doubt creeps in and the doubt is brought by others. And so I decided to do this differently.
Tell me a bit about the self-doubt and some things that people either knowingly or unknowingly have said to you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll talk about the self-doubt for a second and then the fun things that happen whenever a person discovers you're pregnant. And they have all kinds of stories. So the self-doubt is, you know, it's been 10 years since I've had this whole first time pregnancy thing. And as the body changes and as time changes, there are definitely physiological shifts, like clothes fit differently, exercise feels different. The way that we metabolize food is different. Our relationship with medicine, our relationship with herbals, our relationship with care, it just shifts. And so, when I discovered I was pregnant, I had really entered a stage in my life where I had actually literally gotten rid of every single stitch of baby everything in my house. I had started a new business and I felt very confident that I could invest this year in building the business, supporting my clients. And I needed space. So I literally cleared out space in my house where all the baby stuff was stored to have space to build my business. And so when I took that pregnancy test and I discovered I was pregnant, that first breath was not self-doubt though. And that was really interesting for me because I remember discovering my pregnancies with prior children thinking excitement and fear. But this was different. It was almost like a knowledge of control and confidence and comfort. And so when I went to the doctor, like most women do, to see, your Western medicine practitioner, all that confidence that I walked into the room with was met with all of the list of things that could go wrong.
Mm.
And I remember just staring at my physician, whom I really liked and respected, thinking, he is limiting what my body is capable of. And so I shifted everything about my approach to care for this pregnancy, to preparation for this pregnancy, and to navigating the narrow spaces of work and life in this pregnancy. I shifted all of it. And I decided I was going for radical bravery, choosing comfort and courage. And that was a lot.
Oh, we're right there with you as you're looking at that pregnancy test. And this is something that you and I have in common in that my son is now 21, but he came 9 years after my twins. So I had 3 under 3. My son was 12, my girls were 9, and I was 36 years old and found out that I was expecting. And it was disbelief because I also had gotten rid of all the baby stuff. In fact, my car, I didn't have a van anymore. I had, downgraded, upgraded, whatever you want to say, to a smaller, cute little Mazda car. And you're right, though. There was so much joy. Like with the other children, when I was looking at the pregnancy test, there was a sense of anticipation, expectation, because we were trying. This was just complete surprise and but as you like joy, and so I love that. And it wasn't confirmed until I went to the doctor, and I remember coming out to the waiting room and there was this man waiting for a medical appointment, and I said, my husband doesn't even know, but I'm having a baby. He's like, well, this lady's crazy. And yeah, then a lot of things needed to change, but you're right. Like, so now tell me a bit about that was your physician's response. And I love how you really leaned into your inner knowing and deciding that this is who I am and this is how my pregnancy is going to go. So tell us a bit more about some of the other societal or friends or family people who probably mean well, but things that people say have said.
Yeah. I really believe that most people behave out of a place of really positive intent. So the stories that I heard, people coming up to me and telling me all the things that could go wrong in their pregnancy, how difficult their delivery was, this and that. That was one thing. But once I revealed that I was planning for a home birth, the floodgates opened with stories of how horrible women's birth experiences were and how glad they were that they were at a hospital. And I I believe people come from a place of positive intent, but I also am a very, very educated person in that I pursue education before I make a decision. I trust my gut and then I validate and verify. And so I have done probably well over 150 hours of research on the various factors of, am I a good candidate for home birth? Am I health-wise a good candidate for something like this? I vetted a number of midwives. I asked questions. I read the books. I did the research. I looked at the data from World Health Organization, from NIH. I went deep into data. I went deep into understanding. And when I went to those first couple of Western medicine appointments, I had a lot of information to ask questions about when specific protocols were introduced to me. And I think that that's just a piece of the puzzle that a lot of individuals might not feel comfortable with. And that was a piece of that, again, that self-doubt that I annihilated from the beginning. Because the only way to knock out doubt is to have truth. And in the pursuit of truth, I was able to build that confidence and to ask really good questions and advocate for myself well. Well, I had all that information and knowledge, but Sandy Joe on the street didn't necessarily have that. And so all she saw was a pregnant mom with kids that were in elementary school and wanted to protect me. Again, I'm assuming positive intent from an unexpected, undesirable outcome. So when Sandy on the street tells me her horrible traumatic birth story, I'm already going back and comparing her details to the data that I had reviewed. And I can understand where there were patterns of behavior that were not patient focused or potentially isolated to her previous care. And so it's been a really interesting journey of advocacy, even with other women in the 30s and 40s who are first-time mothers or pregnant, challenging those assumptions that we are limited, that pregnancy is a condition of inferiority, that there is, a lack of power and ability there. I believe that I'm challenging a lot of those assumptions by showing up as a brave, strong, healthy, competent, confident, pregnant person who's about to do this miracle.
Did you ever imagine you'd be disrupting some of these societal ways of being with Western medicine and being that advocate? Did you ever imagine that?
No. I just wanted to keep working and have a good time with my kids and just quietly pursue this home birth because I've always dreamed of it. I never imagined the conversations that would be happening. I never imagined the conversation that I would be having with those in my provider's office, challenging some of the data that they were using to guide decisions, because some of the data they were using was based on this male archetype that is completely different from a pregnant woman in her 40s. And so having some of these conversations, again, I'm doing so with such a desire to bring positivity and grace to the situation. But I know that I'm challenging people in ways that could not always feel comfortable or good. And I am just very convicted that, I've been given this birth, this baby, this pregnancy as an opportunity. And while this child that I'm carrying is just this amazing gift, this entire pregnancy is a gift.
Right.
And so I'm very convicted to use it well and to provide an opportunity to elevate those around me through every step of the pregnancy.
Well, I know the listener is already feeling your passion and learning here. This is so awesome. So what I heard you say is courage and comfort versus fear. And also gathering and doing the research, understanding the facts, making it applicable also for yourself, and sorting through, what's just simply fear-based. So the other piece is, and you shared this with me before as well, is around a vision. So having the data has helped you be confident, but can you tell us a bit about the vision that you're creating for the birth? What do you call it? Birth journey, birth story? What would you?
I mean, I'm calling it the birth adventure.
Adventure. I love that.
because I really think that's where this is. So, what science has told us for millennia is that the human brain and the human body work together to bring new life into the world, that our brains can do quite a lot of the work to help have a smooth delivery. And I have the privilege of having experience with that. My first birth was an unmedicated birth. And I did a lot of learning then, 11 years ago, on how to optimize the way that my brain works. Oxytocin is a hormone that when it is produced in your brain, it allows for the birth process to progress more smoothly. Well, there are some activities that bring about oxytocin: love, connection, human connection with trust and safety and security. So I started thinking, where am I the most comfortable? And I also, to be honest, I had to bring my husband on board. So not only was I researching appropriate process for a home birth, who would be the right person, who would be the right kind of midwife, interviewing midwives about this, asking them hard questions. But also, if my husband really wanted me to have a hospital birth and I really wanted to have a home birth, a midwife center would be a something in between. And so I did a lot of research on this. And then I thought about visualizing. I really closed my eyes literally and said, where am I the most safe, secure, and comfortable? In my home. And there's a specific room in my home that provides for me the most safety, security, and comfort. And it's the bottom level of our house. And there's just windows around the top of it, but it's always a cool temperature. And I'm having a summer baby. And there's a giant TV. And so I can see the waves crashing on the beach. And then I can put my birth pool in there. And I just started seeing it all. I saw the lighting. I saw the greenery hanging around. I saw the words of affirmation from my friends and family cheering me on. And then I also saw my children coming into the room whenever they wanted to and giving me that oxytocin boost. I started thinking, well, who else would I want there? Who makes me feel strong? Who makes me remember who I am? And so I made a list of those people. And then I just started really every day thinking about the laboring process. What would it be like to labor in my home? What would it be like to walk around my home having contractions? What would it be like to sit down in that birthing pool and start experiencing the urge to give birth? What would it be like to have these people touch my hand, touch my head, bring me a drink? To know that those I love most were within arm's reach. And then I brought science into the picture and I thought, wow, that's a really good way to keep my oxytocin levels really high and to really bring about the environment that my child should be birthed in. And so I talked to my midwife about this. I said, I'm doing this thing where when I'm working out during the day, I'm thinking about it, I'm seeing it. And she said, okay, that's great. Now see the baby in your arms. Go even further. And so I started to do this as well. And so throughout the day, I just think about that exciting adventure of birth and what labor and delivery will be like. And I play through the moments and I play through the water and the music and the lighting and the chaos. And I see all the way through to this baby in my arms on my chest. And I know this adventure is the one that I get to be on. So it's the visualization has been just really helpful in eliminating fear and reminding me of the power and the incredible design of the body.
Thank you for sharing those intimate details with us. I feel honored to hear your visualization, and I can fully see it from start to finish. So, and this healthy baby. One of the things that helped me with my last birth as well, compared to my first, well, I had my first, which I didn't know what I was doing. And then I had twins. And so that was just like all these adults, these extra people in the room with the babies. And I think there was students because they'd never seen a twin birth before. So it was like all these people in the room. My son, when he was born, my last one, I also have been doing this work around the personal development and the power of mindset. And so what I challenged myself to do was, and I like to think of this Seinfeld episode where like George Costanza, he says, you know what? That hasn't been working for me. I'm just going to do the opposite. And he comes up to a woman. And he's like, hi, I live with my parents and I don't have a job. And she's like, hi. Right. So it's like, do the opposite, that thing.
So I was like, I'm going to be George Costanza. I'm going to do the opposite of what I've been doing all along, which had been every time. And again, I had my last birth in the hospital, but I would see the machine and it was like, I would see the contractions coming. You know how you can see the little things on the ticker tape? I'm like, that thing needs to go away because it's like being in a car and you're skidding. I'm in Ontario, Canada, like skidding on the snow and knowing that it's either going to spin out or hit somebody. Like you just brace for the impact. And that's what I would do every time there'd be a contraction. I could see it on the ticker tape. I'm like, oh, here it comes. And I would hold on the side of the bar of the bed and I would just brace for impact. Well, that is not good. Like you talked about all those chemicals in your brain. And so what I did was I was like, do the opposite. So as I would see it coming, I would say to myself, relax, relax, relax. And I would just slow my breathing down. And I hardly broke a sweat within the last delivery. And I remember the nurses saying, wow, this could have been a TV production, like how controlled you were. And I like that you use that word controlled. And it sounds like that's something you've been doing with your mindset, with collecting the research, feeling in control. Because a birth experience, especially my first, and again, with all those people in the room, the second one too, it felt like it was out of my control, which then really triggered all kinds of other feelings and ways of being, which didn't serve me or my baby. Yeah.
So true, Debbi. And, I think that regardless of our previous circumstances, and I think a lot of women who have given birth have the great ones and then the traumatic ones. And I'm the same, I had a really on par birth and I had a really traumatic delivery. And so I think that it's also really easy to get stuck in the past of this happened and now I have to be scared. I think a transferable message is that just because we've had difficulties in the past does not necessarily make difficulties in the future our reality. And so, there's wisdom, there's education, there's experts, there's guides, there are so many ways to really responsibly research and decide on a path. But the one thing that just keeps coming back to me, and you demonstrated it with that last delivery, is that the past does not dictate the future. It's today that dictates the future. So what are we doing today to make tomorrow that much more in line with what our hopes are? And I think that transfers into business, it transfers into relationships, it transfers into your physical health and well-being, your mental health and well-being. The past does not have to dictate the future. And that's, for me, that is enough to get me out of bed in the morning.
I love that you brought up business because who you are is also who you are in business. And I know in 2024, you left where you were at. There was a tragedy at work in the death of a coworker. And so, but now you've begun, is this right? You've begun a consulting company and you had really kind of taken space for you with your kids in the summer. But now it sounds like you've replaced your salary and you've got work well into 2027.
Yeah.
Like, talk about that. Amazing.
Yeah. Who you are in the past does not dictate your future. And taking the leap from a steady salary and all of those prescripts that come with work, with how we define work. You're right. Like, I experienced this tragic loss of a coworker, and it made me rethink about everything. And so I gave my kids the summer and I started writing about the narrow spaces of work and life, because I was in that squeeze, that place that nothing feels comfortable because I'm running from thing to thing, dealing with guilt from day to day. If I was at work, I was guilty that I felt guilty that I wasn't with my family at an event. If I was at an event for my children and I saw that email come in, I felt guilty that I couldn't respond. And I said, that's no way to live. And so by giving my children the summer and really thinking about the narrow spaces of work and life and really building strong relationships with people I admire, who I was curious about, I recognized that everyone should have an opportunity to have the life they deserve. But that life is really dependent upon the decisions we make today. And not yesterday, but today. And so I took this quote I have in my bedroom. I have a whiteboard in my bedroom. This applies to
Oh my word. I love that so much. I might need that. Ah,
it's good. It's
so
got
good.
cute frame and everything, but
Yeah.
have this written on the whiteboard. It's when you live your life according to your values, you get to live the life you deserve.
Hmm.
And I love work, but there are things that really guide me, that have given me the life I deserve, because I am guided by my values, not my bank account. So I could walk away from an executive level position. And I created this business that allows me to serve people in the narrow spaces so that when they consider work and life, they're not on opposition. They become entwined in harmony, demonstrating the values and providing value. And so this business shocks me that I have work through 2027. I'm shocked because it feels so natural. And it's also like a dream that has come true, because every day I get to help someone take a very clear step in the path of the best work of their life. That's the narrow spaces. And so I even renamed my company and everything to the narrow spaces, because I realized that we all have to navigate that for ourselves. No one can do it for you.
Yeah. And then you expanded into a not-for-profit called the Brave Women's Project. I love that. Can you please talk about your passion for the BWP? Yeah, I'd love to please share that.
Yeah. So BWP was an accidental success. This started in 2020. Strangely enough, I was pregnant in 2020 also. And I'd released my first book, and it came out and we had this launch party on March 17th, where the book was introduced. We had a great time, celebrated success. I mean, it was amazing. And many of you can remember that on March 20th, most of the world shut down due to the COVID pandemic. And so my speaking tour, my pre-orders, everything got shut down. I ended up with a garage full of books.
Oh,
yeah. And I also was in a leadership role at a university where our workforce, which was all on site on location, quickly needed to transition to remote. I additionally had just found out we were pregnant with a baby, and my father-in-law sadly was just diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So our household, in about 3 days' time, went through a huge shift. We moved my father-in-law in. We thought about where we're putting this baby. We also thought about how we're making workspaces for me and bringing our children home from daycare and bringing a nanny to come help us. And so our household just shifted very quickly. And my concern was just in keeping those narrow spaces for everyone kind of clean and clear. And where for many people, the work-life separation was a car ride, now it all came together in about 3 feet from someone's computer. And I was very concerned about mental health and wellness for my employees. I hosted laughing lunches just so employees that lived alone had human connection.
Can you tell us about that? Wait, we got to pause there for a moment.
Yeah.
Right. I love that.
Well, I'm goofy. Okay. We like, you're picking up on this. I'm sure your listeners are getting it, but I really feel like the human connection has to have an element of fun, laughter, and surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to know people when you ask them the craziest questions, when you show up with candor, allow people to see who you are. And so in my organization, they knew that about me. I'm very personable. I make it a point to know everyone. So we couldn't do happy hours because we're all at work. And I said, well, let's do lunch. Bring your lunch. And we're going to just tell the craziest things that are happening during the pandemic.
Oh my God.
Right. And have a couple stories there. You know, we had the toilet paper shortage. That was a huge thing. The people coming out in gas masks and like full painters uniforms. So there were lots of crazy, zany things happening for people. Well, a way to process it was in a psychologically safe space where you could say, this is the craziest thing and not feel so alone. that meant so much to the people I served in my organization. And it allowed for this whole other culture to develop where we were in it together. We were not alone in our homes dealing with it with fear. We were in it together. And so I felt really strongly and very strongly connected to those I was serving. I really enjoyed having my kids a couple feet away. My husband at the time had to report to work, so he left the house every day. Well, things moved forward for all of us in that period of time. And there were, lots of changes happening. And one of the changes that happened in my life was my father, who had been ill for a long time, had finally reached his last days. And because I came from kind of a tumultuous family of origin, and I had a lot of training and crisis management and boundaries, I had some very strict boundaries about how I would engage with the place that I came from and those that I had a family relationship with. And one of those things is we can't let the past define our future, but we can make decisions today to prepare for the future. And so a lot of the decisions I was making and had been making consistently protected myself and my family from potential relationships that could be very harmful. And that's, again, one of those limiting beliefs that just because we came from a place doesn't mean that we have to stay there.
Right.
And so I made a decision one day when my dad was passing, literally his last day, that I would go and say goodbye to him. And when I arrived, I was pregnant, and those in my family of origin knew. And as my dad took his last breaths, I was grateful that I had been there for that moment. But within an hour, everything changed because someone in my family that was very sick mentally with a drug addiction and a lot of other problems that I couldn't fix, had a really strong reaction. And I ended up suffering from a miscarriage as a result of some of the things that happened.
Oh.
And the trauma of losing my father, the first man that I ever loved, and my baby, this future full of hope that I was looking at, and essentially the rest of my family of origin, because of all of the layers that come with something like that. I walked into a very dark, difficult place. Whereas the person who was bringing joy and connection for other people, I just wanted to stay in my bed. And in my bed, I started writing the book For She Who Grieves, because that was one way to process the unimaginable grief I was experiencing. Within a couple more weeks, my husband was diagnosed with MS. And it felt like just another punch, because now the man that I built my future with was changing. And what do you do when you're faced with unimaginable grief and the reality that you were living in is not the future you dreamed of? I looked around and I had these women, professional women who had big responsibilities themselves, showing up for me in ways I could not imagine. Sending me toilet paper, right? Because that's what we did back then in 2020. Sending me cakes, sending me home spa kits, sending me letters and books and flowers, and just FaceTiming with me on repeat. Even if I didn't want to answer, they would just keep calling until I answered, and standing outside my door just to talk to me through the glass, because again, we were so full of fear and not having the knowledge of how to navigate this. And so little by little, I became brave enough to face the life that I needed to face. Now, I couldn't just stop doing things. I had 2 little kids that relied upon me. I had a company that needed me. So I was just constantly going from this place of hiding inside and not facing the reality of the pain and showing up for other people. And that narrow space in itself was suffocating. So it was through these women I really, really grew and found security. So by August of that year, I was filled with gratitude. And I had done like a little weird thing at the beginning of the year before some of the trauma. I realized with these 3,000 books in my home, I needed to get rid of them. So I called my intern. Her name was Morgan. And I said, hey, I know you just got sent home from school. You're probably bored out of your mind. Why don't we build a website so we can sell these books? So we just built hollyjoy.info. And then we were buying domains. And I said, hey, there's this line in the back of the book, hashtag Brave Women Project. Why don't we just buy that domain too? Let's do bwp.life, because you could be brave for life. Literally, that was the end of the thought. Debbi, oh my goodness. August 2nd comes around. It's National Girlfriend's Day in the US. I host a little virtual brunch on Skype. Rest in peace, Skype, because that was like a thing. It's gone now.
Yeah.
So I hosted a little virtual brunch on Skype, sent everybody a little mini bottle of champagne. We wore cute hats. The women didn't really know each other. They knew me. And I watched what happened on that Skype. The connection, the vulnerability, the security. It was incredible. So after that Skype meeting, Morgan and I looked at each other and we said, we just did something. And so for the next couple months, we gathered wise, bright women who knew things about things that we didn't know about. And we put together this nonprofit. We opened for business after we got our filings January 1st, 2021 with our first member. Our first member, I have to say this, her name is Amy Hooper Hanna. She was someone I met at a book launch who I kept in contact with. Amy went on to become my co-author of For She Who Grieves, Practical Wisdom for Living Hope, and she's now a board member for BWP. BWP now is in over 19 states and another country. We are meeting the needs of women in a psychologically safe, community-based place. We're free from sales, free from networking, free from ulterior motives, carefully vetted, focused on psychological safety, impact, and professional growth. And what happens when we're together is we relive that first Skype meeting. We have a monthly Come As You Are session where, in the context of community, our members have a confidential conversation where they get real about the things that hurt, that help, and that make us happy. And the last thing is just our name is the Brave Women Project. And I could have said Brave Woman Project. I could have done that, right? Again, I didn't put a lot of thought into that hashtag in my first book, but it was genius because we're not meant to be alone. Women particularly have a benefit from community. So by becoming the Brave Women Project, we are better together.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that, and also your loss. And I'm sorry for your loss. And this puts the pieces together for your book, as well as the importance and the honor and the sacredness of this pregnancy that you're going through right now. And it really brings home the idea that the past does not define the future. I get it. And I think the listeners will as well, listening to the passion and insight in your voice and wisdom. So as we close up today, congratulations on all your success. And you are such a generous, heart-centered woman who wants to make the world a better place. I can hear that. I can see that with the results. Is there any final words of wisdom, advice that you can give to the listener?
Absolutely. Well, I think it comes with the title of your podcast, Dare to Declare. You know, if we really take seriously the reality that we are gifted with narrow spaces between work and life, and we recognize the reality that our past does not dictate our future, I would encourage your listeners to dare to declare the future they wish for, that they hope for, that they will work for, that is in alignment with their values. And the work that I do with Narrow Spaces provides a roadmap for a lot of people to take those really distinct steps. And so if your listeners are looking for a roadmap to take, there's free resources on my website, narrowspaces.com, where they can actually download a playbook to help them take those steps for themselves. Because we all deserve to have this life that feels good and feels in alignment. And when we live our lives according to our values, we get the life we deserve. And I want to encourage your listeners to dare to declare that.
Thanks, Holly. So narrowspaces.com, and where can they purchase your books as well? How can they get involved with your Brave Women's Project?
Beautiful. Well, Brave Women Project is bwp.life. Brave Women for Life. So visit us at bwp.life. You can learn a lot about membership, eligibility, as well as the various projects we support. And then look me up on Amazon. You can get my books on Amazon, particularly for She Who Grieves. It's been an Amazon bestseller, and it continues to be that gift that we're sending in lieu of flowers when there is a loss, because this book just sits on the shelf until someone is ready to open it. Right. And that's been just an incredible gift of life. And again, you can just learn a lot at narrowspaces.com and just keep up with the things that are happening. And I try to provide value for people every day in this work. And I appreciate that I had a chance to tell my story. And I can't wait to show up in your social media with the picture of the baby when the adventure continues. And it's just fun, really an honor to share some of this.
For sure. I think that this episode is going to drop right around the same time as the birth of your baby. So that will be really fun. And yeah, I would absolutely, I can't wait to see your baby. So
me too.
Congratulations again on all your success. Thank you so much for sharing so vulnerably and authentically here today. And for the listener, don't forget, dare to declare.
Today, we've delved into the realm of manifesting giants, exploring the power of declaring our desires to the universe with unapologetic boldness. But before we bid adieu, I have a little something special to share with all of you dreamers out there. Introducing the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine and online DIY Vision Board course, your ticket to manifesting greatness in style. Picture this: flipping through pages filled with inspiring images, empowering quotes, and step-by-step guides to help you create the vision board of your dreams. Whether you're yearning for that spacious condo with a view or a love that sets your soul on fire, our magazine is here to guide you every step of the way. Dive deep into the art of manifesting with our exclusive online DIY vision board course. Led by manifesting expert, yes, yours truly, and seasoned dreamers. This course will teach you the ins and outs of creating a vision board that speaks to your heart and soul. So what are you waiting for? Join the ranks of the manifesting giants and dare to declare your wildest dreams to the universe. Head over to our website, debbisluice.com, and grab your copy of the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine and enroll in our online DIY Vision Board course today. Until next time, keep dreaming big and daring to declare, because in the world of manifesting, the sky's the limit.